Reference in 8, sink 500. Reference, sink 600.
Check reverse, 4 lights. Change.
It might have been any of 100 airfields. Tempelhof at Berlin, Orly at Paris, Dulles at Washington. It was an ordinary flight, but the plane, a jet called Air Force One, carried an extraordinary passenger.
Roger, 1513.
The time,
Off.
shortly before noon.
Off.
The date,
Off.
November 22nd, 1963. Born in 1917 of a prominent Boston family, John Kennedy's early memories were of election campaigns. He was exposed to the hurly-burly of big city politics, high-blown oratory, and brass bands by his maternal grandfather, John Honey Fitzgerald, former mayor and Democratic leader of Boston. Honey Fitz, with his Irish-American zest for living, displayed unusual talents in the pursuit of votes.
Elaine, Elaine, my sweet Elaine, when shadows fall, I hear you call.
John's parents, Joseph and Rose Kennedy, sent him to the finest prep schools in New England: Dexter, Canterbury, Riverdale, and Choate. By the time John was 17, the family had grown in size and fortune, and his father had become a multimillionaire. 2 years later, Jack followed his older brother, Joe Jr., to their father's alma mater, Harvard University. A back injury kept John out of football, but he made the Harvard swimming team and was active in campus politics. In 1937, Joseph Kennedy was appointed ambassador to Great Britain by President Roosevelt. Ambassador Kennedy took John, then a sophomore, and Joe Jr. to England with him. In London, John began to think seriously about world events. In February 1939, he left college to become his father's secretary in London. The 21-year-old student roamed the continent, observing political conditions at first hand. He was an eyewitness to the growing turmoil on the left and right, which tore democracies apart and led to the growing power of dictators. He watched the democracies appease the reckless moves of Hitler. He heard the approaching thunder of Mussolini's military aggression, and he saw the inevitability of world war. When war exploded over America at Pearl Harbor, John and Joe Jr. were already in the United States Navy. Joe was a Navy pilot, and John became commander of PT Boat 109, In August 1943, PT-109 was ripped in two by a Japanese destroyer. Despite painful back injuries, Lieutenant Kennedy eluded capture, led his men to safety, and was awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Medal for his bravery. A year later, Joe Jr. was killed on a bombing mission in Europe. John was now to assume the political ambition his father had held for his firstborn. In 1945, John Kennedy received a medical discharge from the Navy. He became a reporter assigned to the founding of the United Nations in San Francisco. His interest in world affairs increased when he covered the Potsdam Conference of the Big Three: Truman, Attlee, and Stalin. The following year, he returned to Boston and made his first move into politics, running for Congress from the 11th District. In his first race against 9 other candidates, the Kennedy magic worked. At the age of 29, with the help of his family and college friends, John F. Kennedy won his first election. The freshman congressman, unnoticed and unknown in Washington, quietly went about his work. Fighting for his district, he established a reputation as the Massachusetts Maverick and was re-elected in 1948 and 1950. In 1952, Massachusetts Senator Henry Cabot Lodge was running for re-election. Victory seemed certain, so he was not alarmed when young Congressman Kennedy opposed him. But Kennedy put on a blistering campaign which took him to every city and town in the state. His drive produced a major political upset.
Bobby, my brother Bobby, who managed the campaign, perhaps he could give us some idea, more up to date, of what the final figures were.
Well, I think that from what we got up to about 20 minutes ago, that you were winning by about 70,000. There's about 100,000 more votes to come in. I think that plurality would remain.
That's out of about 2,250,000.
Yeah. So I think that's about 5% of the vote.
Good, fine. Well, I guess you're glad it's over, aren't you, Bobby?
I am, Jack.
Okay.
He was now the leading figure in Massachusetts politics. On January 23, 1953, along with other new arrivals to the Senate, John F. Kennedy was sworn in by Vice President Alben Barkley. Senator John Kennedy became Washington's most eligible bachelor. He renewed a romance with socialite Jacqueline Bouvier that had begun in 1951. In September 1953, they were married at St. Mary's Church in Newport, Rhode Island. 600 guests attended the